Assalamu alaikum. Friends, I hope all of you are doing well. Dear friends, today I'm going to tell you about such a miraculous and astonishing event that, upon hearing it, you will be completely stunned. In today's video, I am going to tell you the story of a girl who was a Hafiza of the Quran. And after her death, an event occurred in her grave that no one could have imagined. That day, a large number of people were present there, and they were all astounded. Everyone went to the girl's house to uncover the mystery of why such an incident was happening in the grave of this young Hafiza girl. And when inquiries were made about her, the family of the girl revealed some startling information that will leave you shocked. Dear friends, this remarkable video carries a lesson for all of us, so make sure to watch the video until the end. And don't just watch it alone, show it to your family members too, as this video carries very important lessons. Today I will tell you why such a horrific incident took place in the grave of this Hafiza of the Quran. What sin did the girl commit that caused such an event in her grave? Dear friends, please give this wonderful video a like right now. And if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Without further ado, let's get into the main event. Friends, let's hear from her husband what happened to this woman. My name is Mohsin. I am the only child in my family. There are 4 members in our family: myself, my mother, my father, and my paternal aunt, who was just like a mother to me. I study in college, and I was a good student. My parents had many dreams for me. They had high hopes that one day I would have a great job. But suddenly, a heart-wrenching incident struck our family. My mother suddenly fell ill, and my father and I took her to the hospital, consulted doctors, but they said that it would not be possible to save her, that my mother would likely leave this world in a few days, as her disease was incurable. Every day I took great care of my mother, always staying close to her. I loved my mother very much, and she loved me deeply as well. Sometimes my mother would look at me and cry. I would ask, "Why are you crying, Mother?" My mother would say, "I worry about you. I have so many dreams for you. I don't know if you will fulfill those dreams, and I don't know if I will live to see your success." Saying this, my mother would cry. I told her, "Don't worry at all. You will get better, and you will see my success, inshallah." One day, suddenly, my mother passed away. I was utterly devastated by this. My family now only consisted of my paternal aunt and my father. To help me forget my mother's grief, both my father and aunt gave me immense mental support. Slowly, a few years passed, and I was able to overcome the sorrow of losing my mother. Then I resumed my studies. Once I finished my studies, my aunt became eager to get me married. I agreed. As soon as I said yes, there was a rush to find a bride. My aunt mentioned that there was a girl in her in-laws' family, a very good and devout girl. She performs 5 daily prayers, doesn't have a father, and looks after her 2 younger siblings. She hasn't studied much, but has memorized the Quran. With that knowledge, she teaches a few children religious studies at home and earns a decent amount. She also uses this income to fund her younger siblings' education. Hearing all these qualities of the girl, I was quite pleased and agreed to the marriage. Before the wedding, the girl gave me one condition. After marriage, she wanted to continue supporting her younger siblings' education and expenses. I agreed. I thought I would help them too. It wasn't a difficult task. After that, we got married. My wife was not only full of virtues, but she was also beautiful. Mesmerized by her beauty and character, I fell in love with her. Because of her, my married life became filled with happiness. Under her influence, I too became devoted to worshiping Allah. Thus, 3 years of marriage passed. In that time, my father passed away. First, I was grieving my father's loss, and secondly, we were not having children. My wife consoled me, saying, "Be patient, Allah is here." I was amazed at how a woman, despite lacking a child, was so composed and patient. On the other hand, my aunt drove us crazy. She constantly taunted my wife, asking why we didn't have children yet, and blamed my wife for any possible issue. She would insist that we get medical treatment, as having a child was necessary. If I tried to say anything, my aunt would start arguing. And so it went on. Finally, 6 years after our marriage, we received the greatest joy of our lives. My wife was pregnant. I was overjoyed and started taking extra care of her because the doctor had said she needed a lot of attention. I felt like I wouldn't even let her get out of bed. Anyway, after 9 months, the blessed day arrived, and our son came into this world, perfectly healthy and strong. But trouble began when I learned that my wife was in very poor health. This wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want my wife to leave me in any way. So why was this happening? I raised my hands and prayed to Allah. "Oh Allah, please make my wife healthy again. Bring her back to me." But Allah didn't accept my prayer. My wife passed away. She left me. I couldn't accept the fact that she was gone. I was completely shattered. I wept as I prepared her for her final bath, and then we took her to the cemetery. The sky was covered with dark clouds. Even though it was daytime, it felt like evening had descended. It seemed as though the sky was weeping with me, understanding my immense grief. I buried my wife under the earth. Returning home, I went to my room. My wife's family was looking after my son, so I didn't have to worry about him. I was in my room, grieving my wife's loss. Before I knew it, night had fallen, and I had fallen asleep. Suddenly, in my dream, I saw my wife crying so much. That wasn't supposed to happen. My wife was always such a cheerful woman, so why would she cry? What was she trying to tell me? I woke up, and it was already Fajr time. The sky had cleared by then, and the rain had stopped. I performed the Fajr prayer. I prayed to Allah for the peace of my deceased wife's soul. I prayed for her to be freed from the torment of the grave, although I knew that Allah would lift the torment of the grave from her, because she was a good woman. She performed her prayers, recited the Quran, and was a hafiza of the Quran. She had achieved the satisfaction of Allah. After finishing my prayers, I looked around and saw that everyone was praying. I went outside. I intended to go to my wife's grave to recite the Quran for her. But as I approached her grave, I was stunned. Even after such heavy rain, the soil on her grave was cracked, and smoke was rising from within. But why? Why would Allah send such torment to the grave of a faithful servant like my wife? Seeing this sight shook even a strong person like me from the inside. It was raining heavily, yet smoke continued to rise from her grave. Could it be that I didn't truly know who my wife was? Oh, to my knowledge, in all these years, she hadn't committed any sins that would warrant such punishment. I couldn't find any fault in her even after searching. She had done all the worship and good deeds for me. So why was this happening? Had I not truly understood her in these 6 years? Allah surely knows His servants better than I do. What could it be? As these thoughts circled in my mind, I realized that her grave needed to be fixed. I called for people, but no one agreed to fix her grave. Eventually, I found one person who did the job for 4 times the usual price, and that too from a distance. Afterward, I returned home. With my mind filled with thoughts and deep sorrow, I asked about my son. My wife's brother handed him to me, and I sat for a long time, holding him close to my chest. Everyone thought I was overwhelmed with grief from losing my wife, but my mind was preoccupied with other thoughts. I was extremely shocked and in even more pain. In all these years, I hadn't truly understood my wife, nor had I learned about her qualities. If only I had known what sin she had committed, I could have stopped her. Days passed this way, and I continued to pray to Allah for my wife. I spent the entire day confined to my room. I had no idea who was taking care of or feeding my son. All my thoughts were consumed by my wife. One day, suddenly, my aunt came into my room. The moment she spoke to me, I became furious. My wife had only passed away a few days ago, and here my aunt was asking me to remarry. She could have at least waited a little longer before saying this. Didn't she see how deeply I was grieving for my wife? She told me that she was getting old and very ill, and didn't have the strength to take care of me or my son. To be fair, my aunt wasn't completely wrong. Finally, after considering her words, I agreed to remarry. But what kind of woman did I want as my wife? What kind of person would I accept as my spouse? I had no such mentality within me. After agreeing to the marriage, I left the house for work. I knew that as soon as I left the house, my aunt would start preparing for the wedding. When I returned home, I saw that my aunt had already chosen the bride and arranged the wedding ceremony. Since I had to get married, I quietly sat down for the wedding without saying a word. After that, I got married. Then I found out that my second wife was none other than my first wife's younger sister. This made me feel even worse, but I said nothing and kept to myself. I knew that no one could fill the deep love I had for my first wife. I was also thinking, if this wife would be like my first one, would she be as devout? Would she be able to take care of everything like her elder sister? It didn't seem like it. The days passed, and I saw that she quietly kept my house in order. She took care of my son and never said a word to me. In fact, until now, I hadn't even seen her face. Even before, since my wife was a Hafiza, she was very conscious about modesty. She made sure her younger sister practiced modesty too. Anyway, one day I returned home early in the evening from work. As soon as I entered, I saw my second wife feeding my son. The surprising thing was that she was much more beautiful than my first wife. Her face was very serene, and she was smiling as she fed my son. Seeing this, I got angry. It seemed to me that she had no sadness over her sister's death. In my rage, I said all sorts of things to her, even mentioning the incident at my wife's grave. Immediately after, I realized what I had done and fell silent. But from my words, it seemed as if the sky had collapsed on my wife's younger sister. She started crying uncontrollably. After a while, she began telling me something that left me stunned. She said, "I was afraid of this. I had a feeling that this would happen in my sister's grave, and now it has come true." Hearing this, I was shocked and started asking her more questions. What was the real story? My second wife knew everything about my first wife very well. At first, she didn't want to tell me and tried to change the topic, but I kept insisting. Then she revealed the truth, and it felt as though the ground beneath me had shifted. She told me that my sister was indeed a good and devout person. She used to recite the Quran, perform worship diligently. One day, a child from a neighboring house was sick and crying. My sister recited some verses from the Quran, and blew on the child. The child recovered. After that, my sister's name began to spread, and people started coming to her for amulets for healing. My sister began making amulets for everyone and started earning money from it. And with that money, we managed to survive. At some point, my brother fell ill, and his kidneys failed. The treatment required a lot of money, which we didn't have. Both of us sisters were lost in thought. During this time, a man came to my sister. He told her that he liked a girl, but the girl was married. He asked my sister for an amulet so that the girl's marriage would end in divorce. My sister refused because such a thing is forbidden in Islam. But the man offered her 1.5 lakh taka, and my sister gave in to the temptation of that money. She made the amulet for the man, and eventually the girl's marriage did fall apart. With that 1.5 lakh taka, we were able to pay for our brother's treatment. At that time, I didn't know everything clearly. After that incident, people kept coming to my sister from all over. One day, I secretly observed her. I saw that my sister was writing Quranic verses backward, meaning she was practicing black magic. Realizing this, I understood the extent of her wrongdoings and how she had gone completely against Islam. I tried to stop her, telling her that she was losing her faith. She said, "It was by doing this that we saved our brother's life, and it will lead to our betterment." I told her that it would have been better if our brother had died rather than saving his life through such forbidden means. I tried very hard to bring her back to the path of Allah and make her repent, but she wouldn't listen. She got married and continued her misdeeds. I was praying that Allah would free my sister from the torment of the grave, but nothing happened. The wife I loved so much, whom I thought I knew, after hearing such things about her, I no longer felt sorrow. Friends, even though the girl was a hafiza of the Quran, she regularly practiced black magic and engaged in disbelief, kufr. That is why, after her death, such torment was happening in her grave. Allah has spoken about those who commit disbelief in the Holy Quran, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, has warned us to stay away from black magic. He has also informed us that those who engage in such actions will face torment after death. Still, there are many people like us who continue to practice disbelief and black magic. They should take a lesson from this video. Imam Ibn al-Munzir said that when a person admits to practicing magic through disbelief, it becomes obligatory to execute them, provided they have not repented. Similarly, if proof and testimony of someone's disbelief are established, it is also obligatory to execute them. However, if their words are not considered disbelief, then it would not be permissible to execute them. If a magician kills someone through their magic, they too will be killed. If the killing was accidental, then compensation, diya, must be paid. Dear friends, I pray to Allah that He protects us from black magic and grants guidance to those who practice it. Please write Ameen in the comment box. Let us know in the comments how you liked today's video, and if you enjoyed it, give the video a like. To receive more regular Islamic videos, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon.